So just wait one more minute. A lot of people messaged, said they're out of camp this weekend, which is probably a good place to be. So they'll just be catching it on their recording. And it's actually what I'll be doing is I'm going to be sharing part of a book that I've been writing with shooting. So a little shooting manual. Pretty elaborate though. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. I'll show you a quick demonstration with the ball, and then refer you guys again to the 2 videos that I tagged you all in on the Northern Lights Basketball Academy page. One of them was shooting warm-up that was done by Coach Mike, and that's a pretty recent post. I think I actually posted that a couple weeks ago for you guys. I made it for you guys, or this group. And then the other one was a thing I did actually just before COVID hit. We had some gym time, so I put together essentially what I'm going to talk about into a workout, and you can kind of see it. It's shot from different angles. So hopefully the combination of it all will sink in. Some of the topics I'm going to brush on today, we've actually talked about with visualization and purposeful training. So some of it might be familiar, but it's stuff that I really believe strongly in, and I think that it works. So it's got some value. All right. So obviously we all want to be the best shooter that we can be. I've never met a basketball player that says they're fine with just shooting the way they shoot. Even the best shooters I've ever coached want to shoot better. And shooting is an ability that as long as you play the game, as old as it takes you, you will always continue to get better at shooting. It's a skill that will always get better, especially if you do kind of purposely train it. And shooting has evolved immensely in the last while. And even from the original heyday of the shoot shot, which was like the granny shot kind of, and then it was the overhead 2-hand shot, and then it was like this push shot, and then like the actual jumper of what you see today. It's been a long time coming, but that jump shot hasn't really changed in a while. We've added step backs and different footwork into that shot, but at the end of the day, a shot is a shot. And I'm a firm believer that every shot should be the same, or at least feel the same. I mean, the more that you can do that, the less difference and the less extra movement you'll have in your shot, the more that shot will be familiar. And familiarity it's going to be confident. You're going to be comfortable when you're shooting that. I'm going to tie that back in later with a new way that we're actually teaching shooting. And it all comes down with our hand position. So it's kind of cool. So that is very important. I think, where was I going with that? Oh, get familiar. So there are times though, with saying that, I want you to be, I'm a firm believer that shot should always be the same. There's times in a game where it's not going to be, there's a defender here and you might have to have a little micro adjustment, but those adjustments will be easier once you have a true shot set or a true mechanic set. Also is saying that when we shoot, I'll see if you guys can see, if I were to shoot a regular jump shot, just change my angle, my follow through would be somewhere around here. Okay, so my elbow is just above my eyebrow and in front. If my follow through is too low, where am I going to miss? What do you guys think? And you can unmute since there's just the 2 of you here. Where's my shot going to miss, Miguel?
In the back.
I probably won't even reach the rim if it's this low, right? It might be an air ball or front.
Right.
All right. Abby, if my follow through is up here where my elbow is up right next to my ear, or even behind it, where's my miss going to be?
Just in front of the net, or like even it might even bonk your head.
Like air ball, right? Short. So we want to find that perfect range, right? So most of us, and I've seen you guys shoot enough already in your videos, and I've just a couple shots. That's all I need. And most of you do have a follow through right around here where we want it, somewhere in here, and that's cool. When we shoot a follow away shot or a fadeaway, that's where if we shoot that same angle, but as I'm fading away, look where my follow through becomes. I'm back into that air ball position. So when we're shooting fadeaways, that is the time where we can actually drop our release angle, because as we're fading away, look where it comes. And we're into that nice angle right there. All right. So even though I say we want that shot to be the same, there are times where it's going to change. But we're going to talk just generic, basic shot. Once we've mastered that, then we can do all kinds of funky stuff. All right. Any questions before we get started? Does that make sense, kind of? My prelude? All right. No questions means good. All right. So we're going to talk about, give you a little brief introduction about the program or the way I designed this. Some mindful techniques for being the world's best shooter. I call it the world's best shooting system. And I kind of talked about why when we did our purposeful training and visualization. So I'll tie in a little bit with that. So that should be familiar for both of you, especially you, Miguel. So we've done this on the court, some of it. Building confidence as the world's best shooter. If you really want to be the best shooter, you need to believe you're the best shooter. And we're going to talk about some tips and tricks to help you get into that mindset. Kind of right along the way, like very similar stuff, performance enhancing thinking, I guess. We're going to talk about visualization very briefly because we've talked about that previously. We're talking about the benefits of ingraining or creating muscle memory. And a lot of what we do when we are on the court training with our athletes, it's trying to build this proper muscle memory. And I had a post today, I don't know if you guys saw it, but it said, what happens when an athlete gets fatigued and the decision making goes down, it slows down and they become poor decisions. Our movements become slower and less coordinated. And then one of the points was old or bad habits come back because we're tired, we're fatigued, and we're not thinking as much about how we want to execute things. So that muscle memory that comes out when we're fatigued, we want to program that. So when that happens, we are not going back to old or bad habits. We're going into this properly programmed training. And you guys are doing it with this purposeful training. Every shot is its own practice. And eventually in a game, you don't have to think because you've done so much thinking and processing as you were training. And then we speed it up, speed it up, speed it up. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we're ingraining the proper muscle memory with visualization and some positive self-talk. We got to talk to ourselves quite a bit as players and kind of bring ourselves up, keep us in the present and things like that. And then we're going to talk about the top-down approach to shooting, where for a very long time, literally decades, and I taught this way up until probably maybe 2 years ago, shooting feet up, beef. So you'd have your base, you've got like your knees and all that, right? So that is exceptionally important. But what I've learned is in a game situation and just watching other players in the Sudbury Five guys, when I was coaching them, is their feet are not always set under their hips, all right? They're shooting out of different footworks, different body positions. But what all of these good players are doing, what I've become able to do is no matter where my hips are, my knees or my feet, I'm always getting my ball to here. And then from here, I can get up to my release point. But if I can get the ball right to here, I know I'm going to get a very good shot off. And it's going to feel familiar from that point on. So even though I'm coming down low, I just put it through my legs and I'm stepping back and my feet are probably staggered. They're not both under my hips. And I'm going to elevate, but I'm still going to get the ball to here and I'm still going to flick it out the same way I do every time. So I now teach basketball shooting from the top down. Way more focus on the release and the elbow, because if that can be consistent, you can figure out the rest on your own and it will just come. But if you can always get the ball to your release point and then flick it out, then you're going to be golden. You're going to be a really good shooter. So we're going to talk about all that. So I'm about halfway done writing this book and it hasn't been edited here. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to kind of read through some of the highlights and just kind of ad-lib if that's okay. So we've talked about shooting, how it's evolved from where it was the grinding shot to where it is now. And we haven't seen too much change, as I was saying. And it's a pretty efficient shot. And so I don't predict it's going to be changing too much more. So you could probably invest some time, I think is what I'm saying. It's a safe method to invest some time in really getting good at shooting and not trying to recreate it. Now, with saying that, we are all going to shoot differently. There's no one absolute perfect recipe that works for every basketball player in the world. We are all different sizes. Our joints are different, are structured different ways. Our bones are different thicknesses and lengths. So more, so many more injuries, things like that. So we can give you like a guideline, or I talk like a general shot, but everyone's going to be slightly different, and that's fine, you know. And a coach should recognize that this is probably a mechanical thing, like or a physical thing, and that's fine. So when you see me shoot in some of the videos, I've got probably not the perfect form, you know, but it works for me, and I figured it out. And it's not far off what a good shot would be. Over the years, I've changed and tweaked things, sometimes on purpose, sometimes probably not, right? So again, we'll give you the best description of shooting, and then for you, it's, you know, if you need to make these adjustments, as long as it makes sense, and you're not just saying, oh, well, I just like it because I'm this way sideways, and because it's, you know, comfortable, you know, try these generic forms and then figure it out from there, and buy in. When you're changing your shot or developing your shot as a young athlete, there's going to be misses. There's going to be a ton of misses. You can't get frustrated. You got to see the bigger picture. There will be growth. You will become more comfortable. The more you shoot it, the better you get. So don't get frustrated if you don't see success. I think Aurora's coming. So to be a good shooter, there's so many intricacies. There is core strength, there's balance, there's hand-eye coordination, there's depth perception, accuracy, the rhythm of the body coming up. There's like so many different factors. And to be a really good shooter, you've got to figure all of those out. And probably the best way, I think, to figure that out is eliminating all unnecessary movement in your shot. Once you can eliminate all of this unnecessary, you know, movement or bouncing or swaying, then that's when you can really start tuning into your shot and manipulating little pieces of it. And then video. You've all got a video camera in your pocket. You are your own coach. You can tell immediately whether that shot looked good. Plus, you know, as you shoot it, you're going to feel it. But instant feedback, you know, what I also suggest is, as you're getting into this stuff, don't base your success on make or miss right away. Base your success on, how did that feel? How is the rhythm? You're gonna hear me say rhythm probably 100 times. So how is the rhythm, the release, the follow through? How did it feel? And eventually, as you becomes more comfortable, that feel, you're gonna see a lot more going in at the rim. Okay. And as you remove more and more of that excess motion in your shot, so maybe you dip and then pop like that, the more you get rid of that, the more you're going to see the ball go in as well, because it's the same shot again and again, and that's rhythm, is repetition. So over the last decade, I would say there's been a massive shift in the math of the game, where there's much more value now on the three-point shot versus two-point plays. Guys like Steph Curry are part of the wave that kind of changed that game. Very European influence, where everyone shoots the basketball and you have to. So whether you're a 7-foot or 6'11" big, you've got to shoot the ball. And if you're not shooting the ball, you're probably not going to have a lot of minutes. And we've seen this in the NBA. Again, with the Sudbury Five, there's a couple 7-3 guys in the league, and very minimal minutes because they were very one-dimensional. They could only play within 10 feet of the rim. And that's not where the math of the game is going. So if you're big, you got to be able to shoot it. And if you're not, then you've probably lost some minutes. On the flip side, some of the smaller players, you've got to really be able to shoot that basketball, because know that there probably is someone bigger that's going to be a decent shooter. So you've really got to shoot the ball well, and you've got to be crafty, okay? So that's kind of changed the game. When I came up in the 90s and early 2000s playing in high school and college and all that, the big time emphasis was pound it inside, get a touch with the bigs. Maybe we got a kick out three, but it was a lot of inside action, inside action, inside action. Where now it's shoot the three. You know, again, inside out threes are a big part, but there's a lot more threes being shot. You know, so it's definitely changed. And if you want to be, if you want to secure a spot at any team, shoot the ball well. You know, it's that simple. It doesn't matter if you're short, you're big, doesn't matter, fast, slow. If you can shoot that deep ball consistently, you've got a spot on any roster anywhere. Okay. So we talked a little bit about the top down, how I've reversed it now and why. So I'm going to kind of skip that. And it just, to me, it makes sense that if you can get to here and then that elbow wrist every time, if you can make this motion the same, then you're probably going to be pretty good. And that's what I've noticed from watching high level players. And you've probably experienced this yourself, that you're shooting out of weird positions. We train so much with our feet under our hips, and then you get to a real game and that's not always the situation. And we'll address that in some of the drills that we're going to do actually. Okay. So with me saying the top down, I don't want you to think that the feet and the knees and the hips aren't valued. They are very, very important, particularly the hips. I think they need to be low, engaged core, you know, chin is up, shoulders are back a little bit, but you'll see that in the video. Okay. But engaged core, I can still breathe and move around, but the core is engaged. And again, if I'm firm and I'm not, I don't want to say tight, but I'm confident with my body, I'm engaged, then I'm able to take away those extra movements. If I'm very relaxed, then everything's just moving around with no pattern to it. Okay, so we want to be engaged, but not rigid where we're like robotic and tight. We just want to be, you know, comfortable but strong in our position, and that will help with getting extra power into your shot and taking away extra motion. If you guys have any questions at any time, just honestly jump in. Okay. So that's a good point there. So in the recent months, we flipped the teachings, probably about 2 years, I would say. And it's been really successful. Miguel, you've done some of this. A lot of the other people that we have on the videos do. All right. A little bit of a visualization we're going to skip. So kind of just a little cliche, it's just a little hook that I have in here. But like, who of us as a basketball player hasn't dreamt of taking that last shot when you're visiting team and you're down 2 and everybody's cheering so loud that you can't even hear yourself think, and you get that shot, you know? Everybody's done that. Like, we've counted down in our driveways, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, a little fadeaway out of bounds or something, right? Because we've seen all these NBA guys, Jordan, and then Kawhi did it for a new generation, right? Guys that are players that are younger than you even. That is awesome. And if you play long enough and hard enough, these chances will come. You know, it might be a tournament game, it might be a city game, whatever. But these things happen through play, just by playing. And you want to be ready for when it happens. And this purposeful training, all the things that we've talked about and will talk about, it all comes back to being prepared. So, you know, I do believe in luck a little bit, but preparation creates luck. I do believe that as well. So by having your mind and body ready to perform when that opportunity arises, that's what being a top level athlete is about. Okay, being in that zone or being able to execute. So we call this the blueprint to building the world's best shooter. And the whole idea is it comes down to thinking, because shooting is honestly, I really believe it's mostly mental. You can talk yourself out of a good shot. You can talk yourself out of hitting a shot. And if you have to even think for an extra second on your shot, pretty good chance you're not going to make it. If you've got to look down at your feet before you shoot, pretty good chance you're not going to make it. So if you have any doubt, you're probably not going to make it. And, you know, you're better off giving the ball to another teammate, I say, who is more confident. And we don't want that. We want everybody to feel that they can shoot it. again, it comes back to this, the way the game's played. All 5 guys or girls on the court have to be able to shoot that ball with confidence. And you want your teammates and coach to believe in you. And that all starts with believing in your own abilities and shot. Okay. And that can happen by seeing the ball go in more. You build your own confidence. Okay. So really believing that you are a good shooter will go a long way. It really, really helps. You can even make yourself jump higher by truly believing that you are a higher jumper, that you are a better jumper, and picturing yourself jump high. Like, it works. This stuff is weird what the brain can do through positive self-talk and visualization. And so it's going to get a little sciencey at some parts here. Bear with me. If you have any questions, please let me know. So shooting is very mental, like I was saying. So we like to employ some methods that actually connect the mind to the body as we're shooting, as we're training, so that when we get to the competition, essentially our movements become unconscious. They're happening without us really having to think about them. And that allows our brain to be freed up to make the reads we've talked about, to communicate with teammates and coaches, to do, you know, just see what's happening, right? There's so many things that are happening at any one time in a possession that we need to be aware of, or should. And the human brain is amazing. It's like a supercomputer, right? But it is limited. So we've got working memory, it's called, which is very short term, and we can only do so much. So anytime that we can actually download or get rid of some processing or thinking from that short-term memory, then that actually frees up space to do other stuff, higher level thinking, assess my defender, the screen action I'm about to play in, all of that, right? How far am I from the rim? Can I shoot it? Do I have a cutting teammate out of my peripheral, right? You'll be able to see all of that better because we're no longer thinking about, oh, I need to dribble the ball away from my defender because they're going to steal it, you know? You guys are able to do that stuff right now. Why can't it work for elite level skills like shooting, where it takes a bunch of other skills to be a good shooter? It's the same stuff. So you probably didn't even know that you'll naturally bring the ball away from a defender. You know, you don't have to think about it. It just happens. So we can do that same process with other skills as well. So it is very psychological. And because of that, we want to take that out of our brain where we don't have to think about it. Because the more we're thinking, there's the more chance that doubt is going to come in, and we're going to think ourselves out of making that shot. So we just want to react, and we're usually better off for that. And again, I'm speaking in, you know, generalities. There's always those exceptions to the rule, but typically that is the better action. Plus, as we get higher in the levels of play, you don't have as much time to think and execute that shot. You know, so as you get into senior level boys or girls basketball, you know, you've got to catch and you've got to get up in that shooting position like lickety split, or there's a handout and you probably don't get that shot off, or you might even get blocked. Okay. So there's a couple of reasons why we want to speed that process up, and taking the thinking away, so it's just essentially reflex, is one of the best ways of doing that. So we've talked about this unconscious response. Think of them almost as reflexes. You know, you put your hand on something hot or cold, or really hot, I guess, and you're going to pull it away. Or if you bang the tendon in your knee, you get the little kick, you know, the doctor taps your knee. Those are reflexes. These are pre-programmed responses that your body, the message doesn't go to your brain. It actually just goes through. It's a short circuit. We won't get into that. But it's a shorter circuit, and that just means faster response time. And these are very fast responses because we're taking the thinking out. It doesn't have to go to our brain, get processed, and come back down to our body. And again, we're going to take similar approaches to programming your movement on your shot, so it's always the same. This is very similar to what pros will do as well. Again, the focus is muscle memory. I kind of call it cybernetics at times, because the person that taught this to me, that's what they called this science, which is, again, science of programming. Whether it's machine or brain, it's a similar process. You can put the code in, which is the visual stimuli and what it should look and feel like, and then you get your output, which is that perfect swish every time. Guys, is this making sense here? It's getting sciencey. Are you guys cool with all this so far? You guys still there?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just fucking. All right. So with our body, a little bit about it, if we're going to talk about anatomy here, so we're going to touch into some of the other coaches stuff. Our nerves, so these little pathways, the relays of how our messages get sent, the nerves. And we've got two major parts. So we've got the CNS, the central nervous system. You guys have probably heard of that. That's your brain stem, and then your spinal cord, right? So those three things, pretty familiar with, I'm sure you've heard of. And central meaning the main thing, like that's your main source of kind of thinking and all that. And that kind of runs on an electrical system and chemical, but electrical. So it's fairly fast, okay? Outside, so branching out of this central nervous system, so out of our spinal cord mostly, we have our peripheral nervous system. And peripheral just kind of means like side, just like our peripheral vision. It's out here on the side, right? It's not a main part of our vision, but it still definitely has some serious value. We need to see that, right? And that part of our nervous system is responsible for sensing. So it's going to allow us to sense where our arms are, where our leg is in time. Okay, so we know whether whether we're here or we're here. All right, and that's the nervous system that lets us feel that. And we need to train that. It needs to be here and not here. So we need to think about it a bunch of times. That's our programming right there, where we're loading that code in, and then eventually it will never go there again, or shouldn't, because this is where the new program is, and we won't have to think about it. Okay. So that's kind of where we're going. There's the central and peripheral, they work together, and essentially that's what we're going to tap into to speed up movements, to make them more consistent. And we're going to tap into that system by talking to ourselves and by using our brain to feel how our body's moving. So I've asked you both before, and the other viewers that will be viewing it, have you all had that shot where as soon as it's out of your hand, you know it's in the rim? You know it's cash. And I think you all said yes. I think almost every basketball player has had that experience. If you played, even up to grade 6, you have that experience probably. That is the shot that you're probably chasing. That's probably that pure form where it just came out and it was just that perfect stroke, your stroke. That's probably the shot that you're chasing, that feel that you're chasing. Okay. And right away that that's in. And that's a good feeling. So if we can get to that feeling almost every single time we shoot the ball, well, you're going to feel good about shooting the ball. You're going to be very confident when shooting that ball. Okay. Probably skip some of that. So we're going to talk a little bit about the confidence as a shooter now. So again, building the confidence through the self-talk and through seeing the ball go in. When we do our shooting, and what you see Coach Mike do when he does his shooting warm-up in the video, we're close to the rim. Again, we don't want to force a shot where we've got to heave anything. We want it to be comfortable so that it's this comfortable rhythm. Okay. So again, by seeing it go in, the first one we do is one of the first ones we do is this one-hand rhythm shooting, and we want to be close. So usually our knees aren't even locked for the first couple, and it's pure elbow and wrist. So you've got to be fairly close, but it's a good way of building wrist strength by doing this first drill. From there, we can slowly work our way back in our shooting workouts. And again, we'll continue to use that nice rhythm, that same stroke that we just did when we were 5 feet from the rim, and we keep using it all the way back. So we've talked about a ladder shooting drill with some of you. You've asked about consistency. This is how: start close and we build our way back. And the confidence will start to come with that as you see yourself getting back. And let's say you're having a bad day where you get stuck on the second ladder. It's a day. Don't get worried. It doesn't mean you're not a good shooter. Your shot's busted. It just means take a step back, go make a couple layups, see the ball go in, and then usually you'll make shots. And that's an old coaching trick. If someone's in a shooting slump, make them go make a bunch of layups, rim finishes, and you just see the ball go in, shoot a couple foul shots with rhythm. And sometimes that's enough to get you out of that slump. You just got to see the ball go in and reconvince yourself, oh, I am a good shooter. My form is good. So we want to see the ball go in. We want shots to feel familiar, and that will build our confidence, because we know that familiar feel results in a good shot almost every time, because again, we know that that's in as soon as it's out of our hands. So those are ways that we build that confidence as the shooter. When we were doing our visualization talk, we talked about getting reps up in your head. And again, this is exactly one of those situations where you should be doing that before bed, before games, before practice, on car rides. Anytime you can close your eyes, you can get yourself in that headspace, in that gym of yours that you like to train in, or that park where the sounds, the smells, the sights. You make it as real as you can. You watch somebody that's a good shooter. Klay Thompson, I think I recommend it. Could be anybody, all right? That's got a good, like the general stroke that you're emulating, that you're chasing. You watch them have success in your mind's eye in that court. You then want to project yourself into that person executing. You then want to see yourself actually being that person executing it now. So it's you're standing back and you're watching yourself. And then the last one is, again, you're in your body actually executing it. You're feeling that rep every time. And as you're going through this, all of those are perfect makes, because it's your brain, right? You control it. So very quickly, you can get off a lot of shots in your mind's eye that are perfect. And as I said, your body and brain have a very, very hard time distinguishing between actual practice and purposeful visualization practice. They're almost the same. And again, it's amazing if you're coming back from an injury, or it's too hot out to train, or anything, any of these situations. You can get in your own head, and it's actually going to make you a more resilient player probably at the same time, and allow you to focus more on what you need to do. So confidence is key. The last thing we're going to say about the confidence is reaffirming success. So if it is a good shot and it did go in, you need to find a way to commend yourself and lock in that feel. So it could be, you could say swish, you could say whatever it is. It could be, yes, that was what we were taught. And again, you just want to acknowledge that was it. That's what you want to keep doing and feeling every time. When you have an unsuccessful shot, or shot that didn't feel right in practice, then you need to delete that shot. You need to erase it and get it out of your memory bank, right? Your storage, right? Delete that file or that shot, get it off your screen. And now, again, you've got no failures. You've only got successes to look back on. And it sounds kind of, cheesy, but it really does work. And if you walk around thinking that, I've never missed a shot, then you probably are the world's best shooter, is kind of the way we tie that into that title. So confidence is key. Multiple ways to build that. We've talked about a bunch of them on previous videos. I think our second or third one. Okay, so you can always jump back and check that out. Rhythm is super key. The reason that guys like some of the guards on the Sudbury Five that are not tall players, they're not large guards, they shoot the ball exceptionally well. And that's how they're able to play at being 5'10" in a 6'10" average league. They got they're a foot shorter on people, and they are somehow MVPs of the league, first team all-stars. They can do it, and they're scoring massive numbers, but they've stretched the court out. And that's also kind of part of the change in the game. We are spacing the defense out. The game is getting further from the baseline. And to do that, you've got to be able to shoot at that distance. So the reason these guys can do it, some of them are elevators where they jump on their shot, and that does obviously help. You can get lift and power into it. But really, the biggest key is rhythm. They harness every bit of power through this natural rhythm from the ground, their feet, the ankles, their knees, their hips, their core, shoulder, elbow, everything. So it's all connected, and it does all start from the base. But when we're teaching programming of mechanics, top down, all right? But the shot, it does start from the feet up, okay? So it is very important that we recognize that as well, and we do in the training videos that you'll see. All right, so I want to check back to my notes. So the rhythm is, again, to really have a good, purposeful rhythm or smooth rhythm, engage the core. Again, you can still breathe and move, but the muscles are engaged, and it just gives us a little bit of rigidity where we can make things smooth. We can fully control our body. And again, some of us we dip very low on our shots. Some people barely dip. Some people jump. So everyone's going to have a different rhythm, but we want it to be smooth. And sometimes when I say that, athletes think slow. But no, slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. It's the way they teach shooting guns, but we want smooth. So, you know, there is too fast, there is too slow. We need that happy medium. But again, that's something that will vary for each player on how big they are and their strength. Okay. So building the confidence, we've nailed that. Talked about visualization, so I don't want to keep you guys too long on that topic. And you will get a copy of this when it's all done, if it gets done. This is kind of a side project, but so a quick recap on visualization one last time is, so we set the court, the practice facility in our head. We incorporate sounds, sights, and smells, especially smells if we can. Again, I had the Sea Gym at LaSalle. It was a dark, kind of dank basement, but it smelled of leather and sweat. But that's like for 12 years where I grew up playing. So that's where I kind of can go, and then it puts me in a gym right away. And then I picture filling the ball. And again, we're into that, seeing somebody doing it, be them doing it, see yourself doing it, be yourself doing it. And all of those times, it's done well. And eventually that becomes your way of doing things. So we're going to get right into the top-down approach now, and this is kind of where it's going to tie into the first video, and then we'll tie it back in with a lot of rhythm in the second video. So the first drill we do, it's called release shooting. Some coaches call it wrist or elbow. To me, it's incorporation of both the wrist and the elbow together on that release. So I just call it release shooting. And the purpose of that, or what is essentially building confidence with elbow and wrist, building smoothness and similarity on each release with wrist and elbow. And we're going to build wrist strength, which will, again, it will help a little bit with some extra range, getting that nice backspin, stuff like that, okay? So the release shooting is done where we're going to get the basketball here. So each ball has that needle hole right there. Usually I start everyone off with index finger on the ball. So I'm actually just going to back the camera up here a second. Bear with me. All right. Okay. So we go index finger on needle hole. Got a good spread on my hand, so it's not narrow. When it's very narrow, I lose control. I'm going to miss sideways on my shot. I'm not going to have control. So we want to have spread. I'm not over exaggerating, but you can see, look at that ball control that hand would create. Okay. Often you will hear the gap right here where you should be able to fit fingers or see through it. That's slowly changing, actually, I feel. But what I like to say is, you know, for learning, we like to get it on the fingertips, the pads, so there's a bit of a gap, and it just gives you more control and feel. Also, the channels, a lot of balls now have dark or deeper channels, and again, that's great for shooters. We get our fingers in there, we get the feel of that ball a lot better. So that deeper channel it's definitely for shooters, I feel. So needle hole, and again, in a game, we're not going to ever stop and find the needle hole. There's actually a technique called the ball pop, where we get the ball into position. Some coaches just say catch and shoot. Again, I'm a believer, let's get some consistency, and we want the channels or seams to go across our fingers like this. So shooting the ball like this, lots do it, and you do it, and everybody does it, and there's times for it. But whenever we can, let's get those channels across our fingertips, all right? And I say parallel to the waistband. So we're gonna go index finger. You're gonna get into your perfect shooting position from your shoulders up. Everything else is locked out, so I'll show you in the video. Your knees are straight, your hips are straight, your core is engaged. There's actually no other motion than right here. So you would actually load the ball right here, again, index finger. Load the ball right here above your release point. Guide hand comes to it, and my guide hand is this. Palm open, essentially, just guiding. And I'm going to get a little bit lower here so you can see. I'm loaded. I like to say the pick and flick technique. So as we're bringing that ball up into shooting position, so I'm getting ahead of myself, a drill here, but that's fine. I just wanted to tie it in. I bring that needle hold finger up through the center of my body and my chin. It comes up through my nose, so I pick my nose, and as soon as I pick that nose, I start flicking it. Okay, I know it sounds gross, and hopefully you guys chuckled or snickered, but you're gonna remember it, all right? And that's it. It's getting that release point. Boom, I can get it here. How do I get it there? I flick and pick, or pick and flip. Get that finger up through here, and now I'm able to release that shot. I flip that shot out every time, all right? So that's why I like to bring this here for training purposes, because it will allow me, it gives me a very specific reference or landmark of getting that ball up through my midline. So my sternum is coming up through my nose, I pick my nose, and then it's here. So this is where we start the release drill. Everything is square. You see my shoulders. Sometimes I pivot, but I've got some tightness and injuries right now. But we want to keep both shoulders square. So I'm here, and all I do is I see my target, and I'm actually going to try and hit the front rim about 5 to 10 times. I don't want the first few to go in. I just want to have a beautiful soft touch on that rim, and then it should come right back. And look, nothing else is moving. So my eyes are on the target, and everything else, this is how that shot should be. The ball should actually come right back to my hand right here, and then I recradle. Boom. And every rep is its own. And that's just building elbow wrist education, all right? And we're 5-6 feet from the rim. From there, we take a step back, and we do the one-hand rhythm shooting, we call it. So I'm gonna just angle this down. I'm on the floor, but you guys will work. So again, I always start finger on the needle hole while we're learning. If that is absolutely weird or very unsuccessful or uncomfortable after trying it though, middle finger, all right? I am usually middle finger, but there are times where I feel like it's maybe in between or this finger. And those are all different methods that are taught. But I traditionally, I think I am more of a middle finger, and that's just me. It gives me, I find a better spread on the ball. But again, you'll see in some of the videos that it changes. Hopefully not too much. Okay, so I load that up. I put it directly in front of me. So it kind of look like this, straight out. I take my left hand or my off hand, and I just want to touch the side of the ball. And then I tuck it. And the only reason I do that is by tagging up on that ball, it makes sure that I don't drop my shoulder and I shoot like this with one shoulder, one eye. I want to keep that square. So all I do is I just do a measured check. I drop it if you want or at your side. And then as I drop my hips, you'll see in the video, I'm loading the ball up. So again, I'm loading it up to the release point. So the ball is here. I'm essentially just going to pivot it around my elbow. Boom. And then I would go up. So as this motion is happening, my hips are dipping and everything is square. So by the time I get to my depth of my lunge, I'm here, and then everything is coming out together, snap, and I'm out at the top of my stroke. So that's the one hand that you'll see Mike doing. Then there's different versions of our two-hand rhythm shooting. There's 3 different versions that we do. You're going to see that in the second video, the longer of the videos that I did in the gym. You'll see 3 different ways of working on rhythm with the ball in both hands. There's 3 different ones. They start in order of ease for me, but they're all there. They're all good. And then from there, we actually start playing around with our footwork, where our feet aren't always under our hip. How do we get our feet so they are under our hip? Because that is the best situation. And then from there, we usually add in step backs and stuff. So I just kind of stopped it at single foot replacements. There actually might be twisties in there as well, which is 2 foot, like a spin, you'll see. So as we progress, we have to carry the teachings or the focus from the first drill into the second one. So as we go in from release shooting into one-hand rhythm, we still need to have this flick and pick. It's a high release. We're hitting our 90s, and then it's that boom, perfect angle. My fingers are reaching through the rim, all right, facing down. Whatever that release finger is, it's the last one that comes off, or the last one the ball comes off of, that needs to be pointing straight down the center of the rim. And that's going to be keep your ball straight. If we're missing in our release, or this way, so let's say this is your index finger, your release finger, and it's pointing sideways, well, we're going to miss to the side. Same thing here. If my release finger is up in the air and I don't even follow through, well, I'm probably going to have a flat air ball, all right? So we want to have those fingers down. So it's going to keep my ball straight by putting spin on it, all right? And then I can actually use that when I'm practicing as my tool. I actually hang that up and I say count to 3. And you got to hold that, and you got to look to see where your release finger is, and you're going to be your own coach and figure out, well, why am I missing? Because that's the last thing that touched the ball. Let's start there. That's probably it. If not, we work our way down to the ground, top down, okay? And then after that, we can get into some step backs. We've done a couple videos already, not really instructional, just kind of showing finishes out of some screen action with Coach Mike and Coach Noah. So I'm just going to quickly do a screen share. We're not going to watch the whole video. I just want to point out a couple things. And then if you guys have questions about anything, any mechanics, I'd be glad to answer. So I'm just going to hop back up onto the couch here. Give me a minute. All right. So I'll show you Mike's first. So this is the release shooting right there. See how his knees are totally locked out. His hips are locked out. And his follow throughs, it's not bad. It's a little high. That elbow's a little close to the air. But notice how his fingers are. They're through the rim. They're pointing down. So he gets really good arc. He's going to get some good backspin. Everything looks really good on that shot. I like that. And then if you can see his guide hand, fingers are spread and just hanging up there. They're not influencing the ball in any way. So that's the rhythm, the release. This is one here. There it is right there. Bang. And nice straight shot. So those are all examples of release shooting. He's coming into it with a little too much motion. I'd like it to be set. This is one-hand rhythm shooting. So we still have that beautiful release. That's awesome. Mike killed that. Look at that backspin. And as he's loading the ball, like I demonstrated, pivoting around the elbow, his hips are dropping. And it's that same release. He's just powering up into it now. So we're adding some rhythm into it, hence one-hand rhythm shooting. This is two-hand rhythm shooting. This is just the first, or this is actually the second version. where he's just bouncing it. That needle hole is just inside his big right toe, his shooting foot, or his dominant foot. And that the needle hole is on the shooting line. So as he's dribbling here, what he's doing is he's not actually catching that ball. He's actually just guiding that dribble up into the rim. And that is the fastest, smoothest way of shooting. Not catch, guide it up. Now, when we're doing step backs, now we're catching. This is an example of the 1 foot replacement. So we're now starting to play with footwork where feet are out of position and we're bringing them under our hip. And that's that ball pop where we need to bring the ball into shooting position. So I'm just going to rewind that on Noah's bit. So he's a lefty, so the ball is in his left hand right now. So as soon as that left foot, the foot that's back in the lunge, as soon as that thing gets planted underneath his hip, he's going to start elevating. And Noah is a big time jumper. He's someone that will elevate in a shot. Where Mike, not so much, me, not so much, but he's going to elevate the ball. He's just guiding it in. So he's going to receive it with the dribble hand, his dominant hand, and he's just guiding it in. When we get to the next portion, boom, and it's up. Dribble up. All right, so now what he's doing, sorry guys. So this is his dominant hand. What he's showing you here is the ball is in his weak hand. It's in his right hand. It's not his shooting hand. What we don't want to do for regular jump shots is reach across our body with our shooting hand to get the ball, because now we're bringing the ball up to our shooting position, to that release point above our head, in a weird, unpredictable way. It's not the way we train. That ball comes up on the shooting line, which is between your belly button and hip. So he's got to pop the ball across his body with his weak hand, and he's going to place it in his shooting hand, which is already waiting to receive it in the pocket area. Okay, so hopefully this you can see it. He's going to do a couple dry reps, and then he's actually going to shoot that. And pop. Pop. And then that's right then that shooting line. From here, he's going to shoot that. So it's pop and then up. And from that point on, from where he pops it into a shooting hand, that looks identical to every single drill that we just did. It's just changing footwork. Okay. And then there's again, this is a 7-minute video. I'm not going to make you guys watch it right now with me. This is a good one, guys, for free throws. It's a special way of teaching free throws. So check that out if you're interested. But this one here, shooting rhythm. And it's going to take you through all of the drills. So I don't talk in it, but you see all of the drills, the same sequence that I just talked about. It's got the titles for you. So this is the first way of doing 2-hand rhythm shooting, where, that's the second one. That's the first one here, where I'm self-tossing it. So I toss it out and then I pop it into my pocket. So I'm just going to add some rhythm. As that ball's spinning in my weak hand, my hips are dropping. I'm then popping it into my shooting hand, and then I'm up. This is the version that you saw Mike do, where it's just a dribble. See, it's right on that shooting line, and I'm simply just guiding it in. Here's the third, the most difficult. I'm in perfect shooting position throughout. I'm not bending over at my hips. I'm actually hinging. I'm dipping. Fingers on needle hole. Comes up through my center line, belly button, sternum, pick my nose, flick it out. So that's the front view. And then you get to see the side view of everything here as well. That's the hinge. So there you notice that I didn't bend over. It was a squat. And that's kind of tough to do. So use your camera the first few times. And there's the dribble again from the back. So a bunch of different angles.